about to go downtown.
Downtown, hey!
Downtown. You about to go downtown.
Good morning, good afternoon, good night, and welcome to another week's episode of Downtown World. Don't waste no time with negativity. Now, I want to thank you guys every week for your true support, and we know that every Saturday a new episode drops. Now, if you are watching, you already know who we have in here today, but if you are listening with whatever you are doing, we have a legend in the building. Now, those of you who have been following this journey in Downtown World with me, you know my love for music and the true homework that is done. And I've been blessed to be able to have a conversation like this today, and it's definitely a full circle moment for me. So we have author, speaker, broadcaster, motivator, connector, king, Paul Porter with us in the building today. How are you?
I love the intro. I'm glad to be here. I've been doing work for 43 years. Jeez. So I guess I can be a lot of titles. That's okay.
A lot of things.
Because you got to be able to shift and move.
Jeez.
And I'm shifting and moving, and I'm glad we finally got together to talk, Kay.
I really appreciate it, truly. So those of you are like, Kay, why are you so excited about Paul Porter? What has Paul Porter done? What is he giving? Paul, I don't want to insult you by asking you this, but if you just want to give the people just a little bit of a snippet into what you have offered into this thing that people call the culture these days.
Yeah,
I'm able to sit here and have conversations because you've made lanes like this important, necessary. So please just let the people know a little bit of what you do, what you've done.
I've been at this, getting a check now for 43 years. And it's funny when I go back in time and think, back in college, when I got that first internship at a commercial radio station back in Boston in 1979, and they were teaching me to say, 1090 WILD Boston. And back then you had to be pop to be on the radio. It was about diction and voice, and college radio was like king back then. And I've been lucky. I started as a program director up in Boston. Well, started at my college radio station, then became program director at this place, WRBP. And so many people, we flipped an all-white school into an all-black radio station. And folks like Wendy Williams, Jay Dick, like so many people came through my college station after we flipped it. When you get older, you get proud of accomplishments. And one thing led me to another from college radio. And Donnie Simpson hired me in DC. I was at NBC, young kid, 24 years old, making $100,000 in DC in 1982. And I'm like,
that was big money back then.
Oh
yeah.
Yeah. No, it was good times. Yeah. And, DC led to BET and radio stations and television spots. And, it's
Let
been a
them know
journey.
Specifically what was happening at BET, because I'm Canadian. I'm based in Toronto, Ontario. Shout out to Canada. So we will know what you're discussing. Let them know what you're doing over at BET. I know you were
Well, yeah, I got to BET in 1989. And that was sort of like the
real BET.
It was different. It was, that's when Bob Johnson was the owner, and my boss, a guy named Donnie Simpson, started. And I remember when BET started in an office building in Virginia outside of DC. Jeez. And got to see it grow from that stage to working at the network. I was the voice of the network in the 90s, the music director, the program director, up until they moved to New York. So it was a hell of a journey because BET was hot then. In the 90s, there was nothing else. And music videos had a different role. Back in the day, folks.
Very important. That's how you got it.
Yeah. yeah, and you got to talk to so many people and see things grow. In the industry, this was a different beast then. There was 7 major record labels. Now there's only 3.
Yeah.
You know, the power of music was different too. You know, there was a love for artists and the artistry, and it was displayed in videos for so long. And now we take videos for granted.
I think,
you know?
I not to dig in so deep so early, but I truly think, based on just what I'm seeing, that respect level is coming back. I feel like COVID kind of reshifted that a bit because artists were stuck inside, not doing as many shows, at least on this side of the border, you know what I mean? And it really forced artists to get back to that point where they would communicate with their audience through video, and the video of the song was actually what the song was about, or things, you know, just what we love Hype Williams and Director X and those people for. Like those, I feel like that era of videographers is definitely coming back.
You know, it's funny you said Hype Williams. And one of my good friends, her name's Kim Ogletree. She was a director for Hype. And I remember we were dating at the time, and back in the days, music videos would cost a couple of $100,000.
They were spending millions.
Yeah, Kim, we did this shoot with Michael Bivins.
Jeez.
With Biv 10 Records. And I remember I went to the room and Kim had like $200,000 in cash to pay people off, like the actors and dancers. And at the end of the night, she had $65,000 left. And I said, what happened? She said, that's for me. I saved the money. And I was like, wow. And there's just so many levels of money. Like my book, Blackout, I opened a book talking about Karen Klein when I went back to BET in '99 to be program director.
What a time.
You know, I was programming 66 million homes.
You programmed me.
Yeah, but
you programmed me.
But you know, and I've been at the network for 10 years before that, but it was different. I checked into the hotel because I was in New York. I used to do voiceovers, and that's when I was on Hot 97 and BLS, because I used to share time. And I loved the voiceover world. I hit a big spot. My first audition was AT&T. It's all within your reach.
Oh my God.
And I got paid $65,000 for 6 words, and I've been doing it ever since. But anyway,
King.
No, but at BET, it was just a different beast, you know, because I checked into the hotel and 2 weeks later, I get a FedEx on a Saturday, and it says Karen Klein. And I open the package, it's 3 envelopes filled with $100 bills, totaling $30,000.
Yeah.
And I didn't know who Karen Klein was.
Yeah. And
on Monday, when I got to the office, because this was still pre-cell phones.
Yeah.
I think I got my cell phone that year, and I had that 2-way. Anyway, I get a call at the office, and it was from a record rep saying, we just want to welcome you to BET. That's what that FedEx was for. Jeez. And I was like, oh, shit, things have changed.
I've arrived, yeah.
Yeah, but it shows you the level of corruption in the business. And I stopped taking money. I did keep that money. And I told the dogs to call off the money because I wanted to make the correct decisions, not based solely on money, you know? And yeah, so I mean, BET in the 90s was it. I made transitions back in the radio all the way up until today. I own a station in Orlando. It's called The Wire 98.5. We're a nonprofit station. We teach young broadcasters from Evans High School to be broadcasters. And we play hip hop and R&B, a lot more conscious than what you hear on the radio. Yeah. And we're winning in our limited area, and we're doing the right thing. So it feels good. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. That is Heavy, 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 heavy. So much to dive into, Paul, but thank you for sharing that, just to let people know just a synopsis of what you've given, because as I said, I remember even up to now, I'll go on YouTube and I'll watch videos from Video Soul and Arsenio Hall and things that people like yourself that sitting in this position and being able to talk about music and people not thinking it's crazy and it's something that you can actually make a living off of. I don't take that lightly. And I know there were a bunch of Black kings and queens that, like yourself, that had to go through those doors before we even existed for these jobs to exist. So definitely beyond appreciate that.
But Kay, you know, the scary thing is a lot of those jobs all are gone. You know, it's like I've seen the rise of Black music and now the decline of it, because companies, the first thing when everything went digital, Black music departments have gone away. You know, they merged with other, we always get this short stick. That's why my favorite saying is, if you're not at the table, you'll be on the menu. And Black and brown folks are on the menu because we're never in ownership positions. I've been lucky enough to be on television in 140 countries, Entertainment Tonight, CNN, NBC, and it's never, well, every now and then there's Black and brown people as producers even. And that's why our stories get so confused. And I don't blame white people for it. It's just the system of media that, you know, if it bleeds, it leads. If it's 11 o'clock at night, you're going to see a story on the news here in the U.S. and it's going to be 2 shot in the head in downtown Atlanta. And, you know, so we have this image of Black folks that we grow up in the industry. And I know we'll get into it, but the industry's just changed. I personally want balance. And don't get me wrong, gangster is part of my story, but as Black folks, it is not our only story. And we've gotten down to, you know, if some people under 40 think hip hop is all of our history and not the samples and the musicians that made the music. It's like we're so disconnected now, and that's what's bothersome to me.
Well, it's exactly like what Prince said, and it's exactly what's happening now. Songs are a sample of a sample of a sample, right? And that's why it's important for people, and I will include myself in that bracket, that though we are younger, take the time to do that education, to know the importance of a Paul Porter and what you guys have brought to the whole, as I said, the culture, not even simplifying it to just hip hop, just the whole Blackness in itself in this music industry. Because when I think music, it equals Black, period.
Yeah. And we're always the leader, but that's the problem. We don't know the history. So, you know, people love certain records, but don't know the original was made in 1965.
Yeah.
Like I you know, growing up, I grew up in Queens and Jamaica, New York, and I was lucky. My best friend and my second best friend, both fathers were in the music industry. Well, one left and left his mom and married Nina Simone. And I used to go to Nina Simone's house on the weekends when I was little from 8 to 11. And I didn't know a damn thing about who Nina Simone was.
Wow.
But I knew that they had a Black Lincoln Continental and they lived in Mount Vernon, New York in a big house, and she played the piano. And Mr. Stroud would take us around to certain things. And I said, you know, because back then I played basketball in high school and college, but it was either go to the Army, get a civil service job in sanitation or police. Luckily, I played basketball because I didn't want to do those things. And it led to music, but it was a different time. So I grew up in a time where, you know, civil rights it's the 60s. I'm 11 years old when I hear James Brown's "Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud." And back then you didn't want to be Black. Like that was like the bad word by birth certificate says Negro, and it was, you wanted to be light skinned because that's who was on TV if you were Black.
Yeah.
And when James Brown came out with that record, it just took my soul. All of a sudden, I was Black, and the whole country would say it loud. I'm Black and I'm proud. And that's the power of music, because music talked to so many of folks like that look like me and you. That was the bondage from the slave ships over music. And a lot of that power in music has been taken away. I said we went from lyricists to the lyrically challenged with some of the the music that we hear. And it's not the old man in me. It's just studying the game and seeing, yeah, we've been dumbed down. Like, we don't even know great musicians anymore, great bands or live, you know, and music's taken on a digital form. But the weird thing is, you know, here's a question for you. Who's the #1 artist in the world? And he makes R&B songs.
Well, artist of the decade, Drake.
Nope, it's Ed Sheeran. Ed Sheeran made $675 million last year. And guess what?
Definitely.
He plays R&B. You know, his songwriting style, that's why he gets sued by everybody. And
well,
it's simple. Yeah. He's a great songwriter. And that shows you that songwriting lives. But when it comes to Black folks, all we can do is hip hop now. And that's sort of how the industry sort of paints its brush. It's not broad for us. It's like, okay. And I know it. My son works with Little Baby. He works with Quality Control in Atlanta. So we have these debates all the time. Why you wear a bulletproof vest, why you carry 2 guns. Yeah. And it's sort of scary what it, you know, the hate that the industry has too.
Yeah. Wow. There's like so much I want to dig in with you, Paul, because these are things that I just love to speak about, just period. These are the conversations definitely I feel like help to push forward or give ideations or just better, you know, sensibility to what's going on. And I side with your son and I side with you because I myself in Toronto recently, we dropped a playlist. I have another show. We dropped a playlist and I strictly made the playlist all Toronto artists. And it was very hard. I just wanted to give the world just a sample into all the different kind of flavors and layers that Toronto is giving. We got the electronic, the EDM, the alternative, the hip hop, R&B. And I feel while it took me a little bit to train my ear to people like Little Baby, etc., once my ear was trained and I really took in what they were saying, I feel like, I'm not saying they are James Brown, but that feeling of say it loud, I'm back and I'm kind of is emerging back again, like with people like Bobby Shmurda, Rowdy Webber, being back on the outside. And to me personally, because I can't push this on anyone else, I feel like that was like the real vibe of New York, the old New York that was coming back. And unfortunately, those kings got incarcerated. When they're back out now, I slowly feel like the pot is readjusting.
Yeah, starting to happen.
Getting like, I'm definitely getting that 90s, like late 80s, 90s vibe again. Do you feel kind of like you see that energy coming?
You know what? It's sort of scary. I think it's coming. I know musically, I'm starting to hear more songs that have meaning and lyric. You know, like I said, I always say we went from lyricist to the
lyrically challenged.
Yeah, and now I hear a lot of good stuff coming back, but I just don't believe it because unfortunately, the corporations push what really
they want
is the culture. You know what I mean? Look, I was sad when Cardi and Megan did WAP.
Why?
Because I knew it was going to be an automatic #1 song just because of the situation that Cardi was in. being as big as Megan was. And the song talked about nothing. Like, if it dropped, it could have been like an anthem that lasted. There's so many songs that in radio and television, we talk about three things: recognition, popularity, and fatigue when it comes to research. And research proves that a lot of these songs burn out really fast now. They have longer shelf lives. Like, there were songs before that were anthems of your summer that you knew. And the last anthem was almost 2 years ago. That was Little Nas X, Old Town Road. That was something that charted for over, I think it was 17 weeks. Yeah. But most songs go real fast. Like DJ Khaled, he'll come out with an album with every star on it. And 6 weeks later, you don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think once we start making more quality music and getting back to our base, songs will last longer, and the game will get better. It's gonna flip. You're right.
That's what I'm excited for, because people, for the most part, mentally we're confined, physically we're confined for about 2 years now. This is the first summer where we're really seeing the festivals start to come back. Everything's starting to come back. So I feel like, as I said, it's like this eruption of people just being locked inside. And I want to hear how artists incorporate these times into their music. When we look back at 2021, 2022, I feel like it's going to be a pivotal time, because that is when you heard what people had to say after, not that it's anywhere close to finish, but after we went through what we went through with that first shock of everything. When it comes to now, you spoke on the attention spans of how people are taking it in. Do you feel like that changes now as well, how the contracts are laid out, because the industry knows?
No, I think the contracts are still as greedy. And I've dealt with a couple of contracts lately. There's so much smoke and mirrors in this game. Like, nobody makes money off of streaming unless you're a Drake or a J. Cole and you get into that billion. I got a record out that has 100 million streams. Chris Porter, The Water Dance, my cousin, a couple of years ago, we did a pop record, 100 million streams, but we got paid more for being on 10 radio stations than 100 million streams when it comes to royalties and publishing. So it's the music business for a reason. They have so many of these young folks looking for streams, and the average artist doesn't even get 1 million streams on a song. And 1 million streams is $3,500 if you're lucky, and that's no money. And I know it's a sign that you're building an audience, but it's hard. And that's why everybody winds up being with the big machine, because they have the dollars to pump in to make you happen nationally or globally or anything else. So
sorry, Paul, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying, there's this false independence now that we have that, own your masters, you can be indie, but it's the paper chase takes paperwork, and and it takes paper. You know what I mean?
So perfect, because I wanted to ask you, with entities like United Masters, shout out to Steve Stout and things like that, what do you make of those things and how they
influence Kay, you just threw me an alley-oop. I'm gonna catch this and dunk it. Look, United Masters is a joke. You know why? Read the first page of the contract. Steve Stout claims that you are free. And if you read the contract at the bottom, they have 10 to 12 months to let you go. They have first right of refusal on all of their artists. So that's what I talk about, smoke and mirrors. If Steve Stout was the guy at the labels, ripping people off, giving up sucker deals, all of a sudden, 7, 8 years later, he comes back with this great idea. Read the print, because so many people have been jammed up there and want to get out and can't. they have to go to United Masters to get out. And they don't do that at DistroKid. So don't fall victim to all the hype. Do the business part of it, and that's the scary part. It's funny. I got an app. It's called MusicBizU.
Is it available for
yeah, it's in the App Store and iOS and Android. And
MusicBizU?
Yeah, but it's like I try to tell stories of how shit really happens. Because like I said, it's all smoke and mirrors, a lot of it. And it's scary because we've been tricked for so long. And when you get tricked by a Black person, it's even worse, I
don't feel like it's trick. You said it right there. Read the first page of your contract. Read your contract. Because
but
people like Kevin Liles have also been vocal about how they don't agree with the idea of United Masters. While some people maybe saw the benefit and after their year was up, they were out, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a hard game, and that's the part of it, the business side that people need advice on. And you don't need your cousin, Bebe, who went to law school at Howard and never dealt with the music business. You need real people that do deals. And unfortunately, you got to pay the money to get real advice a lot of the time. Or build relationships. Yeah. People don't have time. You're smart. You're like, let me get you on the podcast, knowing we're going to talk an hour. And then I can now say, Kay's my friend when you come back to me. And with a favor later or something else, or I come back to you. And people don't do that work. Just the basics to get things started. Everybody wants to go real fast.
Well, it's the value.
And it's about lasting a long time, Yeah. It really is. And it's sad. I've seen so many people come and go in this music business where you be on top for 10 years living. And now, so like my boy Gary Harris, we started in college at the radio station. He signed D'Angelo and just so many great artists.
Yeah.
And he's been gone like 7 years because the industry was cruel to Gary. He's been out of work for 20 years. I just know too many people that have got caught up and died, And I try not to think of the negative side, but
it's there.
People want it, and this business will kill you. And it's killed me at times. This is about bouncing back, In the 80s, I was at NBC. When I got fired from there, I lost my mind. I almost snorted Peru. I was out, in the 80s, just going wild.
Yeah.
And when I got fired from BET, it was the same thing. Because sometimes we put so much into working for others, and it's not your company, it's somebody else's. And that's why I say that if you're not at the table, you'll be on the menu. It's just a matter of time until some company or some new boss or somebody makes a change, or I'm 6'3" and my new boss is 5'3", and he don't like me because I'm taller. And that's the music business, unfortunately.
Yeah. So then, wow, heavy talk. And like, I myself will be replaying this whole conversation because 43 years, and I'm sure there's more attached to that, that's nothing to play with. And there's beauty in that because you were able, as you said, to see the rise and fall throughout this game. So it's easier for you, I would believe, and I do believe, for you to see someone and be like, they'll be here 30 years from now versus like, we won't know your name. I have XM radio in one of my vehicles, and there's a group of stations on there that I love to listen to, but like one station is the 40s station, 50s station, 60s station, and the decades. And I'm like, I know there was a lot of people during these years, but there's only going to be a certain handful of people that make it to that playlist those that, you know what I mean? In 2021, they're still going to play to say, this is music that was in the 40s that you should know about. Just speak on how you feel about that. If someone is saying to you, like you said, your son works with Lil Baby, like how that feels, because it's kind of like depressing if you were to explain it to someone that doesn't have a strong backbone or done any research before they get invested into this thing called the entertainment / music industry. So what are the things you say or tell young people before stepping into this, or when they're
I just say study the culture.
Mm.
I mean, and the culture is not today, it's the history. And history repeats itself in cycles in different ways. But I feel much better when you can look at the arc and the scope of the industry and go up and down, and because it's all connected. You know, some of the players, look, when I was an intern in 1979, the first person I met was Sylvia Rhone. And Sylvia Rhone is the president of Epic today. And 42 years later, I still can call her, you know, and build. And that's what the beauty about this is, that sometimes you start things and the connections come later, but it's a process, you know. I knew Sylvia for like 12, 15 years before I got to BET, and then it was a whole different deal. And when I left BET, to see how people treat you when you leave and when you're in a situation of power, that's
when they feel like you're up, or they feel like you're down because they don't know your business and how
when I got fired from BET, the people that were kissing my ass, some of them I never talked to again. I would hear from some people almost daily. Once I got fired, it's funny because one of them worked at MTV, and I just laugh now that, really, you were that lousy and stinky and dirty that, you know, but it was, she was calling to pray with me before, you know, in the morning. Can we pray? And then once I got fired, I never heard from her again. But so you learn some of the lessons over time. And that's what I try to share. You know, as long as we keep talking and sharing experience, because everybody's been down some path before, you know, faced with some of these decisions. And I'm not saying listen to everything that everybody has to say. Chew the meat, spit out the bones. You know, everything's not for you, but I can see BS a whole lot quicker than you can, you know, because I've been there. And people get excited. You know, it's like everybody says, yeah, so-and-so offered me a deal. Nobody offer you no damn deal. You know, nobody's doing that. I cut, you know, and it's funny on Clubhouse and now Green Room, there's so much hype out there, and it's just painful for me to see.
It's painful to listen to, I swear to God, Paul. And this is the thing. The day when I came on and entered the room that you all were in, and that was the first time in a while, like I truthfully said, that I had been on Clubhouse, and God just blessed me to have entered the right one, and now we're sitting here today, you know. But let me ask you this, right? Because we were speaking earlier on just the importance of the videos with the music and that happening. And I do feel, you know, based on how everything's going, the importance of a video countdown show or video show of some sort will be necessary again. When you were doing Video Soul, right? Love the format, love the concept. I'm getting onto the nerd side. Were you the one that 100% formulated how that show went about, like from set to the songs that you guys would choose to share? Like, what was your process like?
No, my process, luckily I wasn't in production.
Okay.
We had directors and producers there. My thing was always programming music and talent. So picking what went on the show on Rap City and blah, 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 that was cool. And I learned a lot of things.
Make good choices.
Yeah, and that's what it is. And you know, the funny thing is, I tell folks, even today, it's not what you play, it's what you don't play. You know, it's sort of weird. It's real easy to play all the top stuff, But
when you can find that song that nobody knows and
yeah,
everybody's like, what song is this?
yeah, but
That's
that's
that
the
for me.
problem now. The industry's changed.
Yeah.
Like so many people do analytics now. Everything's about numbers and stream. And I'm like, you can't hear a hit? Like, you know, and that's the job. And that's why music is so national now. Before, you know, look, think about it. In Seattle, there was grunge music. Detroit had Motown. The South, Atlanta had their vibe. West Coast, New York. But now records come out at the same time everywhere. And that's the scary part. Everybody sounds alike. And there's little baby, the baby's father, and baby's daddy. And, you know, so I just want to see all our flavors. We got so much music. And when
so
you
was
think
that part of it for you? Like, were you having to go to the South, source that music for Rap City, then go here and source that music?
You
Like,
would hear
how
from
was it
everybody.
coming? Or someone would say, I'm sending you this cassette tape. Like, how was it happening then? Because now I get a bunch of DMs and emails, but I know that wasn't what was happening when you were so.
Oh no, the labels were pushing you on everything. You know, there was a promotion person for everything. There was a reason for lunch and dinner or to fly you away. You know, one time I went to a video shoot for SWV in Hawaii. Beautiful. And flew from DC for 2 days, which was the dumbest thing I ever fucking did. Fly for all those hours to get to Hawaii to get right back. Yeah. And I don't do that anymore. But you know, there's so many people that turn you on, and once you get to pick and choose winners in advance, and you can't do them all, but that's the best feeling in the world, to hear or see something ahead of time, and we don't have that anymore. Everybody follows everybody else most of the time, you know, or when they're hyping up, it's like, I just saw, you know, on somebody's IG, like, you got to hype up Megan and her new song, Thought. Like, everybody's
the new marketing tactics that are out.
Yeah.
Streaming party, all these things. But I really love the way that you broke down the numbers. So as I said, I hope people were really listening and catching that, how you were just explaining the streams and equivalent to maybe getting on a certain number of radio shows will equal to even matching more of the amount.
Yeah, it's about thinking outside the box. Like, you know, I've always challenged who makes the rules and why there are rules. Like, you know, and they'll tell you, I remember when research came in with radio and everything went digital and analytics, and, you know, they gave you these numbers. And I said, well, if everybody has analytics, why doesn't everybody win? Because it's interpretation, how you use stuff, how you use research. But most importantly, now you got to think outside the box. I mentioned my cousin, Chris Porter, the Water Dance. When he came to me as an indie artist, I said, he asked me, what do I need to make this record a hit? I said, I need $25,000. You know? Yeah. But here's what he did, Kay. He studied Kickstarter. 30 days later, he started a Kickstarter.
All right.
And then on the 31st day, he had 25 grand because he had real fans, made up prizes, promoted it, did a video. And we took that money, spent $9,000 on a video with Trisha Miranda, who's a dancer, choreographer. Yeah. And we flew out
before the boom cack, let them know, before the boom cack.
Yep. flew out to LA, shot it with all her dancers, and all of them had hundreds of thousands of followers. Like, there were like 60 people in the room. Well, the video did 20 million the first month. You can Google it. Chris Porter, the Water. That was a great investment, you know, and a great return. Yeah. But it was also taking a chance, you know. And I know everybody will say, oh, yeah, do Facebook ads and do this, and you could get this many. But no, next thing an NFL player was doing it in the end zone. And sometimes you shoot high and shoot outside the box. Like I get records on in Dubai, in Saudi Arabia, where they'll put records in a record chart. For Chris, you remind me, we went #1 in the UK, got a deal in the UK. So it's a global market now. And if you're not working to try to get to that table in other spots, and I know it's great to start local and build and get places, but I'm the same.
I'm off that mindset.
Yeah.
It's a global thing. I'm based in Toronto. I have love for my city, but it's a global thing for me. One of my largest audience for this show is in Bermuda. Like, and I'm just like, all right, like niggas in Bermuda. Like, so I agree with you 1000%. It's a global thing. And it's unfortunate that I find so many people look at the same markets all the time. The US market, then the UK. I'm like, there's a whole gang of places in this world like that you can shoot for. So Paul, let me ask you this, more recently in the news, Damon, we know, but we don't know the situation between Jay-Z and Dame Dash. And more recently now, Rockefeller has sued Damon Dash over him trying to, I guess, make an NFT out of his share of Reasonable Doubt. Just the fact that hip hop and the music industry is now elevating to this space. And this is a space that, in your experience, has not been done before, but it's not the first time you've seen tech come in and play a huge pivotal role in the music industry. What are just your thoughts on it? It doesn't have to be specific if I'm not forcing you to say anything about anyone, but like, just what are your thoughts on it just as a whole? Because I do see this as a huge learning lesson for everyone. This is the first time that we're seeing something of this. And it can possibly go down in history as the largest NFT music sale. So.
Yeah, I think it's not going to happen because of lawyers. But it's funny. A guy I met from Toronto, deadmau5, on the EDM side. I met deadmau5 in a room. And we were in rooms every night for a couple of weeks, and we became friends. And his NFT, it's a whole new space now. And of course, Jay-Z is going to break the bank. And that's a battle of lawyers with Damon. And it's a new space that, one thing, you have to have the audience to win it. The Steve Aoki NFT sold for like $780,000. That's the biggest music artist I know. And John Legere, who used to be the CEO of T-Mobile, he bought it. And I was in a room with him on Clubhouse the night he bought it. Like, wow. There's so much money in the tech side.
Oh, yeah. And
startups is something that Black and brown people, we're behind again. We are behind on websites. That's why
like we're behind, because I feel like I see a whole gang of Black people within this space.
I know, but think about it. I'm part of a startup called Needle, Nedl.
Okay.
And it's an audio chat app. And I met this brother Allende, and he raised, $1.6 million a couple of years ago. He's the first brother who created the iHeart app, and their first app in 2004.
Yeah.
So it's taken him so long to build this company, and in the tech space, it's all getting the VC money, and a lot of Black and brown folks don't. Clubhouse has spent over $100 million for that platform. Everybody thinks it's some cheap stuff, but that costs a lot of money to get big. And that's what we don't normally get, the chances to get that money and that capital to build something.
So you feel like the sale is not going to happen because money's long. And I don't know. I feel like, yes, but as well, if I'm honestly speaking, like, there's no rules to this yet.
Yeah.
So that's I don't want to say the fun part to witness, but this is
Yeah,
this is
I
how the
know.
rules come about. So it's interesting to see how things play out, or what will be done in future,
And
because I was drawing the example of Jim Jones the other day, and I said, Jim Jones is a very smart man. Give him a lot of credit, more than people do give him, because just knowing all the things that he does in front of the camera and behind. And he's one of the first music hip hop artists that I heard talking about the crypto space. And as you know, he has his Capo coin. But there's a reason why he started off with Capo coin and was NFTing his things, as opposed to starting off with something with the diplomats. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So
Well, obviously, you're really good in this space. I know I'm not, so I'm gonna call Kay and get advice from you from now on. Because, you know, like I said, I got experts that I can call for, like, some things I'm good at, but this whole NFT world, it's been like the last 8-9 months, it's just developed, and that's the scary part. Like, who's the police gonna be? And the whole crypto world. So we'll see.
Yeah, it's interesting, but definitely buy you some.
All right.
Definitely. Wow, powerful. Now, a staple question I should have asked you way back, but I'll ask you now. Standard question that we ask here at Downtown. What is a situation, Paul, where it was definitely a negative situation? No questions asked, but somehow, some way, you found a way to overcome. You might have even surprised yourself, and you chose not to waste any time in negativity.
Wow.
I know you got a lot.
Matter of fact, let me tell you a Clubhouse story since we met. Back in November, it was the first time, the second day I was on Clubhouse, first or second day, I was in a big room with Tyrese. And it was a music industry room. And back then on Clubhouse, I think there's 800-900 people in the room. And, Chuck Creekmore from All Hip Hop brought me on stage, and I'm ready to go on. And they're telling industry stories, all the vets and the OGs and the double OGs. And right before I'm next on stage, right before Stephen Hill comes on. And Stephen Hill fired me at BET 20 years before that.
Jeez.
And I hadn't talked to him.
Jeez. Did he specifically fire you?
Oh, yeah. And the way he fired me was real cold. It's in my book, Blackout. He fired me 60 days before my date, and just dodged me in the hallways. BET, we're in the same building, never saw him again.
Wow.
And it was really some punk stuff. Wow. But and I used to be like real angry and mad and like, fuck Stephen Hill. So I get in the room, and Tyrese says, yeah, Paul Boyer, what's up? But I said, man, since we're telling industry stories, the last time I saw Stephen Hill, he fired me 20 years ago, and it was real cold, and the room drops.
Yeah.
I said,
all
but
mics are off.
I said, but Stephen, if I saw you now, I'd give you a hug. And he says, oh man, that's so nice. But here's the part that blew my mind. He tells the story of, right away, he says, Paul, I never told you this. You were my favorite DJ in DC. He said, you were so much my favorite. When I got my first job, I called myself Captain Stephen Hill, because I used to be the captain on BET for 6 years. So I'm like in shock. I never heard this over, 25 years of life and knowing him and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And I go, Stephen, well, why didn't you say something? Why didn't you say I was your idol? And then it clicked. His pain and his weakness was dealing with me. It wasn't my fault he didn't talk to me. It was his ego that got him. Like I worked for Frankie Crocker. He was one of my idols. If I became his boss, I would have taken care of him. Yeah. But that was Stephen Hill's pain that turned into my pain that I worried about. And not until I let that shit go, because back then I was fucking bald. And now I got all my hair back, you know? So
looking good.
let it go. No,
Yeah.
but let it go.
Yeah.
Let it go. You know, you can't carry that energy for long. And it's not good for you. And you can't figure out other people's pain. Because, you know, because he treated me so weird. I was there 11 years and that shit hurt. And I was like, wow. I said, because he's short, you know, I blamed it on the short man complex. I'm 6'3", he 5'5", bitch. You know, I was just thinking, and that was,
real.
you know, 21 years ago.
And
So
that is like so powerful. Thank you for just being so transparent and sharing that story, because that is life in itself. I literally just had this conversation with a friend where it was just like talking about just personal issues going on in my life. And she was like, the forgiveness, the healing is like for you. You don't even need to talk to the other person. It's helpful, it's whatever, but to be honest, it's for you. And you had that moment way before being in that Clubhouse room, even knowing that the moment would formulate like that. And I love that king energy. And that's the part too. You think that it's on your mind, it's on the other person's mind way more than you would have even realized.
But sometimes it's not.
Sometimes it's not.
Yeah, sometimes the beauty of this business is when you can let it go, let it go. It's like a relationship. I had my longest relationship of my whole life. It ended 3 years ago. And that shit took me a while to let go. Like, that's my first long relationship. And as you get old, 5 years, and I haven't spoke to her in a couple of years, that's like really different for me. You know, kind of her kids and everything moved into my house. And,
is your best
you know,
friend.
but I've learned how to let things go. And before it would have killed me. And now I go, you know, it's funny, the greatest singer on the planet, I say, is Rochelle Farrell. And many moons ago, matter of fact, in 1999, or was it 2000, she gave me a book, Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now. And she said, this book will change your life, and you can read page by page, because I'm not a big reader, even though I wrote a book. And that book taught me how to take the pain off of my shoulders and understand other people's pain. And sometimes their pains can hurt you, and it really shouldn't. So I'm a lot tougher now, because I'm a big time crier. I'm really sensitive.
That's all right. That's all right. We need to normalize that. And thank you for bringing that up, because it's a perfect segue. Father's Day just passed by not too long ago. And I'll be honest, through looking through the algorithms, it didn't feel nice. I felt like I didn't get the same feeling I felt when I scrolled through the algorithms and Mother's Day, you know? And I felt kind of bad for our men, to be honest, because I'm like, I get it, what people can say about men to X, Y, and Z, but I was like, this year, for whatever reason, it just really didn't sit well with me. I'm like, all these women are taking the time to like lay out their grief, whatever the case is. And I was like, let's just celebrate our kings the same way they celebrate us, you know? Just what are your thoughts on Father's Day and just being a Black man and being able to truly express how you feel?
Well, this is how I feel. Life is not fair. We look for this life that we expect the same love that we give, the same energy, and it's not fair. You know, Mother's Day is always like a special day for everybody, and Father's Day is, for only the good fathers, not the bad fathers. Like, you know, I'm not saying most mothers are great. There's bad mothers too, but like everything with Father's Day is always with a doubt. And that's because of our fractured family. And it's hard to break up the culture associations. But when I mentioned earlier that I've always worried about who made the rules and why we do certain things. And, and is it right?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things that I question still, and a lot of things I'm not a part of in terms of I'm not going to fall victim to this statehood. And, there's so many things and challenges that life puts on you. And I like to shed them, and make my own Father's Day, make my own Mother's Day, and not, I'm not going to lose my shirt on Christmas anymore.
Yeah.
I'd rather give all year long than, or I just don't want to fall victim. Like, I hate the Grammys, because I know what the Grammys overlook.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to celebrate them. I'm not going to celebrate Spotify because they rip off artists.
Jeez.
So there's a lot of things that we can do. We do a whole lot of talking these days, but we do too little when it comes to, taking action steps. There's got to be more action.
So another staple question that we do have here at Downtown, and I promise I'm wrapping up, is you have the 5 elements: water, earth, air, fire, and spirit. Which element, Paul, do you feel like represents you or you resonate with the most, and why?
Fire. Yeah, fire. I mean, there's nothing like passion. There's nothing like drive and going through a door first. Like, that's like a cool feeling. Like, I've got to do a lot of crazy stuff. 30 years ago, I was in Africa with Stevie Wonder on his first trip to Cameroon. And we were there. The AIDS was terrible. And just some of the things, bringing Michael Jackson on stage and riding my bike to James Brown. So being part of the culture is one thing, but the best thing is seeing people win. Like Tuma Basa, who was with me at BET, who I brought as my assistant. Now he's the director of YouTube. He started Rap Caviar at Spotify. Yeah. I told Joy-Ann Reid when she got a job at NBC through a connection. Yeah. I remember when Wendy's in my book, and when she was on the AM radio and taking her around, and now, so yeah, the process is one thing. The things you think of wins really ain't that big until later. It's the relationships that you build. Yeah. And we get caught up in the money and the fame, but it's nice when you can pass the baton. I just sent Tuma. Tuma had his first baby, and I sent him a rocking chair. My mom used to give all my old girlfriends a custom rocking chair with the name on it. It shit cost $178. And when Tuma was having his baby last year, I said, I'm going to pass this tradition down. My mother's passed. And I sent him
That's beautiful.
A rocking chair for it. So you get a little more sensitive. And don't get me wrong, I'm gangster. I got 2 guns on me now.
The real gangsters do stuff like that.
Yo, I remember seeing a Michael Jackson show. Back when Michael was hot, people were gangsters, and you would see the toughest gangsters at Michael Jackson shows screaming. Yeah, for Michael Jackson. And that's the power of music.
The power of music. I think that has to be your next book.
Yep. No, we'll see.
Yes. Paul, I would like to ask you, just let everyone know where they can find you, where they can follow you, support you. And I'm also normalizing, if you just like to let the people know how you prefer to be approached.
Hey, it's real easy. Just be persistent and constant. But I reach back to everybody on all platforms. I'm at MusicBizU, Music, BIZU. I got an app at Android and Apple. MusicBizU, musicbizu.com. And let's build a friendship first. don't just send me a link with some music and say,
Yeah.
yo, tap in. You know, that was the big word on Clubhouse. Just tap it. No, I'm not tapping in. Like you gotta pitch me, or I'm gonna reach out to you. Let's build and think about the long game. So yeah, hit me up and you can give folks my telephone number. You're not a caller, you're like a texter. I know this shit is technology, but sometimes just call and talk. Like that's what I remember. There's no classic text in my head that I go, oh man.
I remember that.
That's my favorite text. If it's some text shit, it's some bullshit. But people remember conversations, first meetings. They never remember a thread. Remember that thread we were on? Oh shit, we were in a group text. So try to connect with your mind, okay?
That is so true. Oh my gosh, I love that, but it's so true. I'm thinking about it. I'm like, never.
Yeah. Never. All right. Well, yeah, you should start a room with that. But tell us your top 10 texts. Like,
it's true. It's true. No, I love the way you think. And OGs like you are very much necessary. And I do not underappreciate the value that you guys bring, because I could honestly sit right there, right next to you, and probably talk to you all day about this shit. So,
hey, here's one more thing.
Yeah.
And you can get my book, Blackout, my 40 years in the music business.
Want to.
And the funny thing is, all the books that I ship myself from home, I sign and I put my number in it. And people freak out. And I've built a lot of relationships from people calling. They might just send me a picture of them holding a book that was part, but I've had some great conversations with people because Amazon rips off authors. But and I've sold plenty on Amazon, but yeah, it's Blackout. And you don't have to buy the book. C-SPAN gave me 90 minutes. If you Google Paul Porter Blackout, and it's a sort of honest special that I talk about a lot of things that I do in the book. So it's been cool, Kay. I'm glad.
Oh, it's been amazing. It's been amazing. You dropped a lot of fruit. And I hope
it's gems. It's gems on Green Room. How many gems you got?
Well, here at Downtown World, I seen that, and when I was reading the press release, I was like, "This is gonna be a shit show." I haven't even signed up for it yet. I'm like, I know I should enter. I know I should enter in there, but I'm like, this gem idea. Oh God, you're gonna have people behind the scenes.
Oh, they already changed.
I can gem you down if you like. Oh God, like I see it already. But
good, you're asking questions. So, and sometimes we don't have to participate in bullshit. You know, that's good that you ask questions instead of, oh yeah, let me get in this new room. And it's funny, like the same people from Clubhouse are there doing the same pitch they were doing on Clubhouse 6 months ago and having rooms. And I'm like, this is not going to be my role here. Yeah. Anyway, but thank you very much.
I agree. And, I will say, like, just for me going into these apps, it's an in and out thing. Like, I can't for too long hear stuff that doesn't, like, if you were on the mic more, or I believe it was Jackie, like people like that you could tell they know what they're speaking on. They've actually
it's real easy to get fooled.
It's real easy to listen, but that wasn't a learning experience for me on Clubhouse. Like just learning, wow, there are a lot of people that say they do this, but it's in actuality, that's not what's happening. So, but that's life in general.
Yeah, you know it.
When we think about it. But one last thing, Paul, in downtown here in Toronto, we used to have a show called Speaker's Corner, and it was a booth set up downtown, and people could pay $1 or a loonie, and they could go in, because our loonie is a coin, and they could go into this telephone booth and say anything that came to mind. You seen people singing, you seen people breaking up, making up, it was anything goes. So we have a new segment here at Downtown Speaker. And I want to give the mic to you, Paul, So it doesn't have to be related, even though I know you gave so much today, but anything that's just on your mind that you want to put out there and lay out to the world, Downtown Speaker is yours.
Wow. You know, the one thing I like to share is lift some folks up, take some folks. I judge success by what you can do for others, you know? And that's not, it's not always putting your boy down. It's just building people's character and being nice to people. It's real easy to be nice and trustworthy. And we all make mistakes. This cancel culture is ridiculous out here where, you know, and I'm one to get in people's ass too. But if you give, you'll receive. And it might not come now, but it'll come at your darkest day. And, you know, I've been through a lot of ups and downs, and it always works out. It always works out. So be patient, man. Let me just tell this last story because this is healing for me.
Yes.
2 months ago, my best friend in life came in to visit, and Garner Mahan had pancreatic cancer, stage 4.
Wow.
And he kept saying for 13 months that he wanted to make me his bucket list trip before he died. And I was messing with him, but over the course of time, he just got worse and worse, you know, and I was hoping he was going to make it. So he came on April 18th and picked him up at the airport. He was weak, came in from Virginia, and all he wanted to do is see his boy and talk. Yeah. And, you know, to be honest, he said, I just want to smoke a cigarette and smoke a joint, and, you know, have a beer. That was it. So that night he came in at 8 o'clock. We had a beer, and he hadn't ate for 3 weeks. 3 weeks without throwing his food up. And he smoked a joint, and I said, Garner, you got to eat, man. And I ordered some Chinese food, and we ate and talked all night. And the next morning he woke up, you know, imagine getting cancer treatment, chemo for 12 months. He woke up and says, Paul, 6 o'clock, I'm hungry. Can we go to Dunkin' Donuts? He said, man, I ain't, and I'm smiling. I'm like, what? Yeah, shit, yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
So we go and he eats again and holds his food down. 10 o'clock, we're right here. I'm in the same chair where he was sitting there in my backyard, and we were supposed to go to the beach. The whole thing was a trip to the beach. So where I live in Florida, I took him to my community pool so he could sit out under the sun, set him up under a chair that had a shower that you could pull the water on. And I was going to be gone for an hour and 15 minutes. Of course, I called him, and he's calling everybody. I'm on my bucket list with trip with Paul, his kids, friends. I text him. He answers back. I say, I'll be there in 13 minutes.
Yeah.
I say, I'll be there in 15 minutes. I get there in 13 minutes. Yeah. And Garner's not in the seat. Like when I pull up, he's not in the seat. I fucking get out the car. He's in the fucking water, laying face down. He drowned. He passed down in my fucking pool. And I start screaming, help. I jump the fence and start giving him CPR. And that's when I knew God had a bigger plan. You know, he died 36 hours later, had a slight pulse, but he was brain dead at the time. And everything we talked about was him, you know, 10 o'clock that morning, he said, Paul, if I die today, I'm a happy man. I got to see my boy, and my girl's okay. He's like, my daughter sent me money. Whose kids send them money? Yeah. And
wow.
And he passed. But that whole, because I was like, why me? Why? You know, and his wife, that was the toughest call. He was married over 30 years.
Yeah, I could imagine it's so hard for him.
yeah, so it's been like a dark time of remembering the past 2 months. But like what I'm saying, whatever cards you get dealt, you know, there's a reason and there's some beauty behind it. If you haven't reached it yet, it's coming. And I knew he was happy and, you know, he was at peace. So it was just a wild experience. I don't know why I ended there, but I just wanted to land the plane on a real tip because everybody deals with shit. So if people think, you know, everything's happy times, it's not going to happen. So thank you, Kay. I'm glad I've been downtown today.
Wow. I'm glad you came downtown. That was so powerful. Many of my viewers know my father, he battles with cancer. So we never discussed it. We never shared it, but God laid that on your heart and you definitely blessed me. And I want to dedicate this conversation, this episode to your friend. I really do.
All right, Garner Mahan, my man from Jamaica, Queens, with the crossover J, my boy. He's the reason I did a lot of stuff because he was my hero, you know, as a kid. I'm
like fighting back the tears. I'm like, Paul, why are you making me cry?
I'm about to cry. That's why I had the glasses on.
It's so beautiful. It was so, and thank you for just sharing such a personal moment with me because I can't imagine mentally, please don't beat up yourself too much.
Oh, no.
You gave him what he wanted.
I went to the pool for the first time 2 days ago on Father's Day and went to the pool and everything when it happened in real time looked bigger. Yeah. And, you know, and when I looked, Garner was in 3 feet of water when he drowned because he was standing on his feet, but his body was over. Yeah. And I was hoping he was going to lift up his head when I was like, Garner, and he didn't lift it up and I jumped the fence. So, yeah, it's still, but then, you know, the happiness takes over by the stuff that he said and we did and we shared. So I'm going to be fine. But, you know, and when his daughter called me the other day and sent me a story, she was in the newspaper in Atlanta. And she said, normally I send this to Daddy, but I'm sending it to you, Uncle Paul. And I was like, yeah, I'm doing my shit right because I'm on those girls. So you got me crying now. I got to go.
All right, Paul. You know, I got an Uncle Paul and he is my world. Like, I love him. So shout out to all of our Uncle Pauls out there. Y'all are needed. And Paul, just thank you for your transparency, the beautifulness we gave. I'll do one more before we go. Everyone knows on my personal page, I'm always cooking. I love food, maybe a little too much. But what did you eat today?
Jimmy John's.
What is that?
A sandwich shop. I had a delivery and a banana earlier. I'm about to eat now.
Okay.
But, good thing is I played basketball in college. I was 185 point guard from Jamaica, Queen.
All right.
Now I'm 195, you know, almost 45 years later. So I'm good.
That is really amazing.
Yeah. No, I was up to 270 at one time, believe me. Those BET days and free dinners and eating, baby shook me for a while. Shit. But
get me the most expensive thing on the menu. We're invoicing this tonight.
A lot of smoking, a lot of weed, and a lot of munchies. But
seriously,
all right.
Seriously. Paul, thank you. You're a true king. This will not be the last time we're speaking. And today, thank you for choosing not to waste any time with negativity, eating fruit, minding your business. You guys know you can follow him at MusicBizU. You're also able to download the app and all things Paul Porter. So I'm definitely going to make sure to get that book and be educated some more. So thank you, Paul, for your time.
All right, all love.
This has been another episode.
About to go downtown.